Thank you. Welcome everyone to the Police and Crime Panel annual meeting for 26-27. It falls to me as the support officer to start proceedings by inviting nominations for the position of chair. We'll have nominations, please. Yes.
I'd like to nominate Christine Goldstraw for chair and thank her for all the work that she does as our fantastic chair.
Thank you. Is that seconded? Yes, seconded, thirded. Very good. Have we any other nominations for the position of chair? Thank you. Next. Right. Congratulations, Christine.
Thank you.
Welcome as chair for 26-27. So it's at this point that I'll hand over to yourself and we look at nominations for the position of vice chair.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Working this time yesterday. Did you want to come in before I do number two?
No, it was when.
Yeah, if I could, I just wanted to thank everyone for the nomination. And I'll do my utmost to run a slick, a slick operation. But I don't want to put anyone down when we're having proper discussions. Don't catch your eye. Hopefully someone else will say support. But thank you for your confidence. It now falls to me to ask if there are any nominations for vice chair. Councillor.
Councillor Shannon.
Right. Do we have any others before I ask for a seconder?
No, I think we have a seconder first, please.
Oh.
For just.
Seconder? Thank you. Couch.
Yes, I'd like to second Councillor Matt Shannon, who's the policing crime brief in his portfolio at the city, and he's hit the ground running. And I think he'll do a really good job here on the panel, so that's why I'm seconding that.
Thank you. Thank you. Any other nominations?
Thank you, Chair, and congratulations on your appointment. So I'd like to nominate Councillor Robin Bliss, who I'm standing for here today. So Councillor Robin Bliss, former serving police officer over 30 years, has been on this panel for many years, cabinet member for 7 years, responsible for police at Rushden Borough Council, and I know he's got a good reputation both with officers and with obviously members of the panel as well. Being anyone who's seen involved speaking these panels and his contribution, no, he doesn't play party, he plays straight bats, and has got experience chairing various committees and a lot of knowledge from both sides of being on the force and from being a councillor. So really think he'd be an excellent choice of Vice Chairman. Thank you.
Thank you. So we've had 2 nominations so far. Are there any more?
Just require a seconder for that nomination.
Yeah, 2.
Very good.
So we want to do that. Are there any more nominations before we take votes? No? And we'll do them as we started. I think with Councillor Shannon. All those in favour?
Yes.
Anyone against? Anyone? What's the difference? Have you got all your record?
Yeah, I'm just making sure.
Everyone got their hands up that was voting?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, 5.
Thank you. And for Councillor, who else was being nominated?
Inglis.
Councillor Inglis, thank you, sorry.
So 5. I'm sorry. Sorry, can we just?
Do you want to do that again?
Councillor Richardson, did you indicate for Councillor Shannon?
No.
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 For Councillor
Rob, yeah.
Right. Understood. Okay. 5 and 5.
5 and 5.
And
I'll have to defer it.
we
Chair gets.
we can do.
Doesn't the
Yeah,
chair get
we
decided?
can defer till next time.
I think it's helpful if both candidates are present, isn't it? I think it makes it a more fair. Wouldn't like to take it.
Yeah.
Councillor Bunn, are you wanting to come in?
Yeah, I just want to ask a question. What happens in this case if there's 2 equal votes for 2 candidates? Does the chair get a deciding vote, or what's the normal process?
If the chair still wishes to cast deciding vote, she can.
My stance at the moment is that there are 2 very different but very, very qualified people to take the chair. And at the moment, I don't feel that I could separate one from the other.
That being the case, we will roll that on to the September meeting.
Okay. People content? Thank you. Just as an aside, I noticed that the wafting thing is quite warm. Is there any way of cooling the place down? It is very hot, and I noticed people are feeling quite hot.
Okay. Well,
Perhaps we see.
yeah.
Thank you very much, everyone. It's always good to have people keen and eager to come on board. So look forward to sorting that out in future. Can we move then to item 2, the minutes of the last meeting held on the 23rd of March, which seems quite a long way away these days. First of all, does anyone have any corrections that they wish to draw attention to? Good.
Carried.
Anything anyone wants to raise from those minutes that aren't covered anywhere else on the agenda? No, thank you. If we can move then to today's minutes. We've got, first of all, the minutes of the last meeting held on the 23rd of March. Can I take any questions or considerations? Not. Can I have a proposer and seconder to those?
It's just if people are happy to, propose as a standard regular, we can have that agreed with that proposing second.
That takes us then to the minutes of the confirmation hearing on the appointment of the chief constable. Can I take it with your consent to accept those minutes?
Yes.
Okay, yes, thank you. That takes us to item 4, apologies for absence, and I think we have quite a few, haven't we?
Apologies for absence were received from Mayor Andy Abrahams, substituted by Councillor Caroline Ellett, Councillor John Clark, substituted by Councillor Carl Robinson Payne, Councillor Rob Inglis, substituted by Councillor Jonathan Wheeler, Councillor John Shepherd, substituted by Councillor Madeline Richardson, and Councillor Terry Cox, who has no substitute. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm sorry, before we proceed, if I could just ask for a moment while I confer with our chair, please. This is in respect of the votes cast previously for vice chair. Can you just bear with me a moment? I just need to have a quick word. Thank you. Right, I'm so sorry, and I do apologise if I have missed in my counting, but it was indicated subsequent to consideration of the position of vice chair that there may have been an error in counting the votes, and I don't want the meeting to proceed and or end without revisiting that particular item, if that's okay. So I'm going to stand up and stand in a place where I can see everyone who's got a vote and count and name each in turn. So I do apologise for this. It's highly unusual, but I'd rather get it done right now rather than there being it being revisited afterwards. So with your agreement, Chair, can we indicate as before those who would wish to vote for Councillor Matt Shannon to be Vice Chair, please? So, 5. Right, that's definitely it. That's definitely 5. We know. Can we now have an indication of who wishes to vote for Councillor Inglis, please? 6. 6. So, on that basis,
Chair,
Chair,
can I ask a question?
yes.
I don't know, it's not working. Can I just ask, I just feel that we moved on from the point in the agenda. We were going through other business. We was actually on that point, and I do feel that obviously I haven't seen the procedures set out in front of me of how these meetings work, but I'm not sure that would, whether I'm comfortable with whether that vote would stand now, because we've moved on so far from that item. I think perhaps what I felt was agreed on that item as we continued was that it would be deferred to the next meeting, and then that's changed halfway through. So I just question whether that stands actually, but I obviously seek guidance from the officers and from the chair.
Have other members indicating Councillor Vaughan? Respond?
Okay, oh, thank you. Look, I get the point made there, but obviously there was an error on the counting for whatever reason is. That's why the vote was asked to be retaken. Now actually have the correct nominations and the correct vote taken forward. So my understanding was that the resolution wasn't made, it was agreed to defer. And we've now obviously recounted and got the numbers correct, because if the numbers were correct at the time, that's when the decision would have been formally made. So I think it's playing a bit of semantics and trying to make excuses for a vote not going a particular way people want. If that's or certain people want, if the vote's been made and properly counted this time, that is the vote, and that's where we should be taking that forward and moving on. Thank you.
Thank you. Isn't it a normal process that once a vote has been taken and counted and declared and a decision made, you can't revisit it in the same meeting?
I was just going to say, unfortunately, I have quite recent experience of sitting in a meeting where officers failed to count a vote correctly, which was then subsequently challenged, and it led to having to then schedule an extraordinary meeting at cost to the taxpayer in order to get it resolved within a certain time frame. So my strong recommendation would be, if there was a miscount, it has been acknowledged very quickly, like we still haven't moved on to the substantive business.
Yeah.
I think we should acknowledge that, and it doesn't make any difference to any of the decisions that are made, which have just been noting reports so far. But I think we should revisit it now, get it resolved, and it is on record as to what that original vote was, and that can be reviewed, and make that decision and move on, which is always my preference, is to make decisions rather than deferring them anyway.
Agreed.
Sensible. Any other comments at all?
I agree entirely. We've only got to apologies for absence. We haven't got to the main meeting yet. And in my experience as being chair, it can still go on. It's the chair's discretion if we carry on.
With apologies to everybody in this room, because it's my mistake and my error in not counting properly. If the panel so agree, I would wish to suggest a brief adjournment while I take guidance from Legal Democratic Services, so that we can have confidence that we're going ahead in the proper way. So I do apologise profusely again. Let me take a 5-minute adjournment to sort out this mess. Thank you. If we could pause the broadcast, thank you. I'll be back as soon as I possibly can.
Move on with the agenda whilst
I don't think we can.
you seek advice on that. We do have an officer here.
Not for the balance.
Yeah.
Well, we can open the doors and perhaps get it.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm sorry, I just.
It's discretionary.
Controversy straight away. Don't lose it.
When I was my office for 5 years, I got screwed. And honestly, you could easily just let them go.
I know what we are now.
Officer wants to check out security.
Chair's discretion anyway.
It's a hard
Councillor, that's not, I was forever buying things and being required.
This is where Perhaps an easy thing to decide. So in the end, we decided, well, one do it for 1 year, one do it for the second year.
As much as John McGarry. Yeah, they don't wander away. Well, there's a bit.
Thank thanks everyone, and thanks again for your forbearance. I've discussed it with our governance manager as approaching it as the host authority. There's clear video evidence from consideration of the original vote that 6 votes were cast. Any decision to defer, A, isn't making a decision, it's deferring a decision, and B, it's on the basis of incorrect information that was reported from me. So there is clear evidence that there was a vote in favour of Councillor Inglis to be the Vice Chair for 26-27.
Thank you.
That's the governance advice. Thank you.
So, is where I am now, thank you for the clarification, and we welcome our new Vice Chair whenever he's available. Hopefully at the next meeting. And thank you, Councillor Shannon, for volunteering also to be the chair. We've got 2 excellent candidates and we're very fortunate. So thank you both. So shall we pick up apologies perhaps? I'm not sure if we got through all of them. Just check. Did we get through all of them?
We did record apologies. I think we're at the point of hearing if there are any declarations.
Taking silence is golden. Yours report, thank you. That takes us to item 6, review of membership balance appointment objectives. I think there's a paper 19 to 24.
That's the speaking part for me as well. We consider every year the membership against the nominations that we receive from the constituent authorities, and we have 2 nominations from the city and 1 from each of the constituent authorities. So we have a membership of 10 currently. That's our starting point. And we have currently 6 Labour members and 1 from each of Conservatives, Reform UK, Ashfield Independents and Brockstoke Alliance. That's our starting point. As the support officers, we would recommend to the panel that on the basis of achieving a balanced and proportionate membership, that in order for that to happen, and at the same time those who have been nominated by their authorities be retained, it would mean that we would have to move to a membership of 14, and that would require additional co-optees approved by the Home Office for additional members from Reform UK, from the Conservative Party, and also from the Lib Dems. So that would give us the, as far as is practicable, the balanced appointment objective. However, it is in the gift of the panel to decide whether to agree that, this vote does require unanimity in order to proceed to the Home Office. So you have the paper in front of you, you have the proposal to reach the balanced appointment objective, and it's for the panel to decide the way forward. Having said that, if the panel decides not to go ahead with the revised membership, we would need to report back reasons for that to the Home Office. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Who would like to open any debate on this? or are people content with the way we're organised at the moment?
Okay, thank you, Chairman. Obviously, see how the vote goes now, and it's got to be unanimous. My only concern is the requirements in the Act for us to have the fiscal proportionality and the other rulings in there. So I know we've gone back to Home Office before and they've not shown that they are going to insist on the increased membership, but where we vote to take today, if it is going to be against increasing the members there, I'll just have that caution on there that we will obviously have to report to the Home Office and see what they say, because, and if they instruct us to increase that membership, because up to that, I'm sure the government would always put something there for a reason, I'm sure, in terms of the statutes and the laws there as to why they want the increase. So I think we should be very careful if we're going against that recognition as to why, and make sure we've got our reasons down, and to also bear in mind the feedback that comes to them, to make sure that we obviously have that credibility and obviously our legal and term decision we make going forward. Thank you.
Councillor Taylor, did you want to come in?
Thank you. With the demise of this organisation in the near future, and having successfully run with the current numbers, I will not be willing to vote for an increase in numbers. And I declare that now, which does assist people, because the government, for a reason, decided it had to be unanimous to increase, but not to reduce. That the government accepted the decision last year to remain as we are, and I will be voting to remain as we are. Thank you.
Yes, I'll be joining Councillor Taylor in voting against the proposal. I think as the points are, the clock is running, and if last year proposals of 11 or 13 were too unwieldy, I don't see how 14 would be any less unwieldy. I think that the taxpayer would probably look at us adding more people to a committee that's going to get less done because there's more people and question what on earth we're playing at.
I've got several hands, so Councillor.
Thank you. I'd just like to point out under item 8 that I will be in the position instead of John Wilmot. So it's the top of the needs correction.
Yes, you're correct in what you say. Councillor Grafton, you are attending as a member of the committee, and the report was written at a time when it was thought that Councillor Wilmot was still the appointee from Ashfield. But yeah, you're correct in what you say.
Councillor Bunn, I think.
Yeah, so I was just going to say, once again, we're faced with a kind of unsatisfactory set of choices. Either we vote for it to be politically proportionate, in which case it means a large and unwieldy panel, and that would also then affect the representation from other areas, because the only way to do that is to increase representation from, for example, the county or from specific areas. At the moment, what we have is a representation of 2 people from the city, 1 from the county and 1 from each of the boroughs. So any decision that we make to change the panel is going to be unsatisfactory in one way or the other. Given that, I think probably easiest just to continue as it is for this last remaining few years.
Thank you. Any other comments?
In that case, I will put it to the vote if people can indicate whether they support the proposal.
All those in favour of maintaining our current membership, would you please raise your hand?
That's a clear majority. Okay. So we shall retain a 10-member panel membership for 2026-27. Thank you.
Thank you. That takes us to item 7, and we welcome the Deputy Commissioner I only received a short while ago, Angela, when you were here taking us through the start of the process. And thank you for the documentation you sent to us beforehand. I don't know, are you going to use the gizmos? Thank you.
Thank you, Chair, and welcome to the new panel members. Those who don't know me, I'm Angela Candola, the Deputy Police and Crime Commissioner. Firstly, I'm going to start off with the contents. I'm assuming that everyone has read the report that has been sent out. There are some key points that I'll be going through today. A reminder of what Nottinghamshire's board strategies, purpose and aims are. Overview of PCC funded for services, the outcomes, evaluation of school-based healthy relationship programs, planned service development, overview of the activities I've been leading on since July last year, summary of the Walk in My Shoes consultation, looking ahead of what's planned for this coming financial year. This is just a brief reminder of what's in the strategy. The aim of the strategy is to co-create in Nottinghamshire that is safe for women and girls by reducing BORG prevalence, bringing perpetrators in justice and increase access to support. There are 5 core pillars: mission, preventing, responding, supporting, including and strengthening, and some of them overlap each other. The strategy has a delivery plan which is refreshed on an annual basis and includes any partnership activities as well as OPCC-led initiatives. We also chair a group of public sector board leads to support the development and the delivery or coordinated work activity.
Angela, sorry, just got your mic on for the broadcast.
Is it off or on?
It's on, it's at the moment, it's just
there. Can you?
get back to you? Thank you.
Apologies for that. Right, okay. This slide is an updated overview of BORG in Nottinghamshire. All findings on this slide are from the OPCC's 2025 BORG Needs Assessment. The findings draw on local police reported crime, as well as looking at national statistics and extrapolating them to Nottinghamshire. The OPC's Police and Crime Surveys is a quarterly survey which asks a statistically significant slice of Nottinghamshire's residents' questions each quarter about crime, policing and feelings of safety. The findings on this slide apply a gendered lens to survey findings. In December 2025, changes were made to the survey to include questions on feelings of safety on public transport and on the nearest high street to those completing the survey. Further waves of the survey over the coming year will allow for deeper analysis of these trends and help to inform more targeted interventions and work. This chart demonstrates how safe or unsafe women feel using public transport. The data is drawn from analysis of responses to the Nottinghamshire Police and Crime Survey during 2025 and is based on 3,267 respondents, of which 53% identified as women. That was 1,723 respondents. As mentioned before, responses to the questions revealed pronounced differences in perceptions of safety on public transport at night by gender and area, with particularly low levels of perceived safety among women in Ashfield and Rushcliffe. Commissioner Garden co-commissioned a range of services and initiatives to tackle VORC, both primary universal provision and more targeted support for those at risk of harming and perpetrator programs. The biggest investment is into schools-based healthy relationship programs and activity to tackle domestic abuse perpetrators. The healthy relationship program was recently independently evaluated, and I will return on this later. Commissioner Godden also co-commissions a comprehensive range of specialist services. Domestic abuse commissioning is led by the local authorities. Support services are gendered with women and men accessing separate services to meet individual needs. Equation also provides a specialist LGBTQ+ service. Stalking occurs both within and outside a domestic abuse context. Nationally, the split is approximately 50-50. Support for domestic abuse survivors who experience stalking is provided through services commissioned by the city and county councils. To ensure there is no gap in provision, Commissioner Godden commissions a separate service, specialist services for victims and survivors who are stalked outside of a domestic abuse context. This service is delivered by Nottinghamshire Women's Aid as the contract holder, working in partnership with Juno and Equation. Commissioning sexual violence services is shared. NHS England leads on the sexual assault referral centres, while Commissioner Godden commissions ISVA services for both adults and children. From 2027, the Commissioner will co-fund a new children's therapy services jointly with the ICB and local authorities. The Commissioner Godden has been able to sustain additional specialist provisions for groups through grants. The scheme will be reviewed later this year. The report you have all seen provides further details on BORG outcomes. This slide pulls out a few highlights to mention now. Just under 12,000 victims and survivors were supported across all our co-commissioned BORG support services. The outcomes in this presentation are for all services, female and male. Of these, over 50% were supported through co-commissioned domestic abuse services. 90% of survivors completing the exit forms reported an increased ability to cope. The non-domestic stalking services achieved 88% on the same outcome. Sexual violence services were accessed by nearly 500 victims and survivors, although this figure will certainly include a higher number of duplicates, as survivors may access SARC, ISVA and therapy, with 93% of survivors in the adult ISVA service and 80% of those in the hub and therapy services reporting an increased ability to cope, and over 70% of children and young people. Sexual violence services were accessed by nearly 500 victims and survivors, although this figure will certainly include a high number of duplicates, as survivors may access SARC, ASPA and therapy services. For perpetrator programmes, positive outcomes are reported. However, measuring perpetration reliability remains challenging. We are beginning to capture both police and survivors' reported data to build a stronger evidence base over time and demonstrate effectiveness. This chart breaks outcomes down across areas and includes outcomes from both female and male support services. The male and specialist LGBT services are delivered by Equation, and City and County South female services provided by Juno and Notts Women's Aid. There will always be some variability in outcomes due to the dynamic and often unpredictable nature of domestic abuse and associated levels of risks which are beyond the control of services. This chart brings together outcomes across all co-commissioned support services delivered by Juno, Nottinghamshire Women's Aid and Equation for Women and Men across a range of measures and demonstrates strong overall progress and improvement. This slide highlights the key findings from the independent evaluation of Equation's Healthy Relationship Programme. Based on both quantitative and qualitative data, the report authors were overwhelmingly positive about the impact of the programmes, which was shown to result in meaningful behaviour change. They recommended that the programme are sustained and expanded. We have maintained our provision and hope that the city and county will match our contributions to ensure that this vital work can continue. We also know the government has committed through the national strategy to review relationship, sex and healthy education provision in schools. However, there is currently limited detail on this, so we will continue to focus on what we know works locally and align that with national action as it develops. We have strong services in place. However, we recognise there is always more to do. We recognise there is a gap in medium risk domestic abuse support services in the city, and we are working with the City Council as the lead commissioner to address this. Adult ISFA and hub and therapy services are under increasing strain, with ISFA referrals rising by 10% year on for the past 2 years. Both services are also experiencing significant systemic pressures linked to changes in partner funding, increased complexity of cases, and delays within the criminal justice. However, the transformation of our sexual violence hub and therapy service is progressing well. Clear opportunities for closer integration with NHS services have been identified, and the waiting list has been reduced from just over 2 years to 15 months. We anticipate this will reduce further. We are also working with the ICB and the City and County Councils to commission a new therapy service for children and young people affected from sexual violence. The new contract will be operated from January 2027. This is separate from CARDA, which supports children affected by domestic abuse. The new statutory stalking guidance was published in February this year. It applies to a range of public bodies, including PCCs and local authorities, and requires us to have regard to it. This means ensuring survivors can access support from the Independent Stalking Advocate Service, who use a specific type of risk assessment called a screening assessment for stalking and harassment, alongside the dash or S dash, where domestic abuse is also identified. Our specialist stalking service is already complying with the guidance, and we are working with the providers and commissioners to ensure domestic abuse services are also fully compliant. We will also be concluding our current MOJ funded domestic abuse and sexual violence grants in September. These have been in place since 2022, and it's now appropriate to refresh them. We'll be launching a new grants programme in the autumn specifically focused on domestic and sexual violence support. We are planning to roll out phase 2 of the victim needs assessment to help improve reach our services. This phase will involve targeted research to better understand how victims access support and what they need from services. Since July 2025, myself, Commissioner Godden and the OPCC team have led on a wide range of activities across the broad agenda. This slide provides a small snapshot of some of the key initiatives that we have delivered. The East Midlands War Conference was the first of its kind. We at the OPCC hosted this conference, bringing together partners from Nottinghamshire, Derbyshire, Leicestershire, Lincolnshire, and Northamptonshire to showcase best practice and share new ideas. The theme focused on war prevention, and the event received positive feedback with an attendance of over 240 delegates, including survivors. Survivors were given a platform to speak about their journeys, enabling delegates to hear powerful first-hand accounts of their experiences. We held our first International Women's Day event this year with a focus on celebrating the achievements of Nottinghamshire women making a difference in the org space through grassroots recognition awards. The event also provided an opportunity to showcase the work of the OPCC, connect women with local service providers, and create a space to share experiences, learn from another, and build new connections. It was widely praised by participants as an inspiring celebration of women in Nottinghamshire and their achievements. The event was attended by around about 230 women from all walks of life. Operation SafeNet, led by Commissioner Godden, has brought a range of improvements to the public transport safety across Nottingham. This initiative is in partnership with the OPCC, Nottinghamshire Police and Nottingham Express Transit. It aims to reduce crime and antisocial behaviour while specifically enhancing the safety of women and girls using the tram network. The Women's Safety Board was a key priority for me, having been directly requested by VORG providers, and I've now successfully established a bi-monthly forum where key VORG voluntary and community sector partners, including smaller buy and for organisations, can raise issues directly with me. This enables me to hear directly from the sector and ensure the OPCC can raise concerns or flag emerging trends with the force or commission services. White ribbon accreditation has been successfully achieved by the OPCC, with a delivery plan to be implemented over the next 3 years. This will include reviewing internal policies, ensuring appropriate staff training, raising awareness of domestic abuse, both internally and externally, and appointing domestic abuse ambassadors and champions. The White Ribbon campaign also involves engaging male allies to help challenge misogyny and sexism. I'm nearly there, not long to go. Walk in My Shoes, it was an online survey, police-led initiative designed to better understand where women and children feel safe and unsafe, helping to identify specific locations of concern. However, the force's initial online survey had a low uptake from the ethnic minority, women and girls. So at our request, the survey was reopened. And I led the targeted engagement with women from ethnic minority communities to ensure their voices and experience were better reflected. I sought to engage with as many groups as possible over a 2-month period. And through this targeted activity, an additional 800 surveys were completed from women and girls representing a highly diverse range of ethnic backgrounds, supported by a wide range of ethnic minority-led organisations. This slide highlights the key findings from a total of 3,600 responses, including identified hotspot areas. The force has already increased police patrols in these areas and worked with the City Council to put in additional security patrols. The 5 hotspot areas that have been identified from the survey are the city centre, Rushcliffe, Ashfield, Mansfield, Newark. And we'll be looking at doing different works in those areas. Some of the issues that came up was extra lighting, extra policing, CCTV cameras, so the police are looking into that as well. The impact of the campaign has been recognised nationally, and the campaign is added to the College of Policing's practice bank. The following communities were actively engaged to ensure inclusive participation, enabling their voices to be heard to contribute to the survey of the Walk in My Shoes. Consultation is vital, and we need to communicate in a variety of ways to engage with all diverse communities, so be it online, one-to-one, translated literature, through focus groups, WhatsApp, and wider community engagement, ensuring we can also accommodate individuals in their first language. This work has also provided valuable opportunities to raise awareness of different forms of domestic abuse. And this is a great example to show that we can engage with everybody. It's looking at different forms of communication of how we engage with those. Regional communities is essential to ensure a completer and more representative picture from the consultation activity. Here is a snapshot of some of the board-related activity plan for 2026-2027. Drive is an evidence-based, high-impact, multi-agency perpetrator intervention programme designed to change the behaviour of high-risk, serial or repeat perpetrators. We are rolling it out in Nottinghamshire from later this year. I also want to work with employers through a charter currently in development aimed at organisations of all sizes to help recognise and play their role in tackling VOG. I want to continue the mapping exercise and promoting safe spaces across the city and county, with plans to expand provision through additional formats. There will be ongoing community engagement to continue to build the trust and confidence, along with raising awareness of VOG with all communities within the city and county. We will be holding our first honour-based abuse event together, bringing together survivor voice professionals, commissioners, the VOG sector and grassroots women to raise awareness on honour-based abuse. We plan to conduct inclusion research to identify what more needs to be done to ensure that the VOG survivors with protected characteristics and those from all communities can access services that meet their needs. We anticipate new Home Office funding opportunities to be published in June, and will seek additional investment to support services addressing domestic abuse perpetrators, as well as interventions for children and young people who are harming. Finally, on OPCC-led work, we are collaborating with the Forces Professional Standards Department to increase awareness of how it identifies, prevents and responds to VOG-related misconduct, with a particular focus on abuse of position for sexual purpose. That provides an overview of our VOG activity. However, as I've highlighted previously, the VOG strategy is jointly owned by all local authorities in Nottinghamshire, alongside the PCC, the Force and the Integrated Care Board. We lead the coordination of the VOG delivery group, which brings together public sector partners to develop and oversee a partnership-wide delivery plan capturing the full breadth of activity being undertaken to tackle VOG. We held a refresh event in April with partners, where it's agreed that collectively there is need to place greater focus this year on improving how we join up, monitor developing solutions to enable more effective information sharing, and will strengthen our engagement with key partners in health, housing and education. That is the end of my presentation, and thank you very much for listening. Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed for what is a whistle-stop tour through quite a complicated process, I think it's fair to say. So thank you for that. I know there's a number of people who want to raise their questions. Councillor Woodings first. Take those. Councillor Taylor.
Thank you so much. It's a really comprehensive report, and thank you very much for the amount of information in there. Very encouraging as far as the outcomes of people who've been through domestic violence and sexual violence and assault in relation to the improvement in their confidence. And I think lots of us around this table will know that the vast majority of survivors never see the door of a court, because that's not the way that they want to pursue this. On that point, I think I'm very interested in all of the work that's being done on prevention in this area. First of all, very encouraging to see that people who have been marked at medium risk by the MARAC team are going to have an increased focus on helping support them to be safe in the future as well. But I'm also very interested in the DRIVE programme as well, because I see that, I'm presuming that's like a mandatory version of the voluntary version of your choice, where there seems some fairly lowish numbers coming through, 80 referrals and 60 completing the course voluntarily is really great. I don't have any context as to over what time period that is, and do you think there could be anything more done to make sure that people are actually made aware of that by the police when they go to incidents. So, as I say, we know that there are lots of properties, because we see them in the courts, where there have been multiple visits to properties with no legal outcome. So do we know how this self-referral to your choice is happening? And what numbers do you hope that the Project Drive, will actually take on board? I'm presuming it's like an integrated offender management kind of programme. And the other thing that it's really good to see are the outcomes for Equation as well. I'd be really interested in seeing the detailed paper on Equation, if we're allowed to see it. And it's really good to see the ongoing commitment to fund Equation as well, because of the work that they're doing on healthy relationships, education and sex education as well, in an age-appropriate way. So again, it's great to see all that preventative work taking place, because we know misogyny is an issue in schools at the moment as well, and stopping people taking on board that sort of like toxic information and feelings and having that challenged in schools feels so important for the next generation. I do actually welcome the ban on social media accounts for 16 years and under that's been announced this morning. I know 75% of parents also in favour of that as well. And hopefully, having that strengthened approach, we will see those sort of like really harmful channels encouraging, as I say, misogynistic messages. Actually, we will see a reduction eventually in a few years' time of people committing those sorts of crimes of domestic violence and sexual violence as well. I think another aspect, obviously, is the length of court delays for those that do go to court. But I think my colleague has got a point to raise about that with you in a bit. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Woodings. You mentioned, you mentioned about medium risk referrals, and we mentioned we're working with the City Council Commissioner to address that. And so that's what we do. In terms of the DRIVE project, there is some national academic research which has demonstrated DRIVE is effective, and it's for high-risk perpetrators. We agreed a referral methodology for DRIVE that anticipating approximately around about 125 referrals per year, but this is for high risk. So that's that one. In terms of the Your Choice project, it's a voluntary perpetrator programme. So I think what we need to do is look at how that can be promoted more, and the police refer more as well, and maybe the courts as well. So we can look at that to increase the referrals. But to me, it's about promoting that service more. Even though Equation has done a lot of work to promote it, it looks like we need to do a lot more promoting. Preventative work is key. We have support services. We're going to continue to have support services. Borg has been there for 100 years. It's nothing new. So we've got to work around 4 generations. So prevention is the key way forward for us to try to raise awareness on Borg as well, and working with schools and working with teenagers and working with all 4 generations to do that. Hence, there's a lot more preventative work that we're doing, and the White Ribbon campaign is one key area of how you get male allies on board to challenge that misogyny and sexism and support women as well. Women can't do it alone. We need male allies with us to address Borg. So that is what we're looking at. We're chipping away. It's going to take years, but we are working towards that and making the slight difference we can. So, did I answer all of those?
Just one point about the Equation.
Yes, I was going to
outcomes
ask
thing.
that. Yeah, the full report has already been provided to the panel support officers, so that can be distributed.
Sorry, Chair, can I just add to that as well? Just for your information, so DRIVE has been around since 2016, and the DRIVE project has delivered
in 14 PCC areas, with more areas planned to be rolled out. Angela's stolen my thunder because Nottinghamshire has been selected to deliver the drive programme as part of a multi-agency approach to tackle the high-risk perpetrators. So in time, we will be able to have a package for you to describe exactly how that's going and what the outcomes of that are and how powerful it is and successful, hopefully.
Thank you. And we've got Councillor Bunn and Mrs. Harding. Sorry. Oh, did you want to come back in? Actually?
Yeah,
Sorry.
just to say to Councillor Woodings, we're evaluating the Your Chosen project anyway, so once we've got that ready, we can share that with you. Thank you.
Good afternoon. Thank you very much for a very comprehensive report on this subject. I would like to sort of probe further into the significant opportunities that have been made in the criminal justice system. I am concerned that outcome 16 produces a lot of victims who do not progress further into the court system. And I'd like to know more about why they're not doing it and if there is a reason behind it, and whether they are intimidated by adults or gangs or partners. I'd like to know a bit more about that and what progress you're making on this point. Thank you.
So just to answer that one on behalf of the APCC, so we're going to have another look at it. So a subgroup has already been established, which will sits under the Victims Board, but which will report into the Local Criminal Justice Board. But to bring stakeholders together to have another look at outcome 16 to see what else can be done. I think reference has already been made to how many survivors don't want to pursue a criminal justice approach, and that's certainly a factor. When we've looked at it in the past, there's been a huge range of reasons, but we are just about to look at it again.
Thank you.
So just for the benefit of new members and substitutes, just introduce yourself.
Yes, sorry, my name is Nicola Wake, I'm the head of commissioning and partnerships at the APCC.
Just to come back on that, I'd like to say that often Crown Prosecution Service pursue the perpetrator, even though the victim does not want to progress the case. So we do actually deal with cases, but it's not often enough. And I'd like some more information on that to see what else can be done. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. I was really pleased to see in this report a number of mentions of partner working and partner organisations and recognition of the importance that there isn't sort of a one-size-fits-all approach and the sort of complexity and the multi-agency approaches needed to dealing with this problem. I did have several questions around this element of the report, if that's okay. So the first one was in terms of grants. So obviously the funding for grants comes to an end at the end of this year. It mentions that over the summer you'll be running a new allocation process to determine how that is going to be funded from then going forwards. And I just wanted some reassurance and explanation about how we'll ensure that there's continuity of programmes and that things that are working really successfully just don't come to a sudden stop and aren't eligible to apply for continuation funding. Something I hear from a lot of charities and organisations is the problem that they'll get funding, or in fact local authorities as well, is that we'll get funding for 2-3 years, we'll do the thing, it'll be really effective, the numbers go down, brilliant, and then the funding gets stopped and a year later the numbers are all back up where they were because they haven't been able to continue that targeted work. So some reassurance around that would be excellent. My second question is related but slightly different. So there's a lot of mentions in the presentation and in the report about working with the ICB, the Integrated Care Board. Obviously, they're facing considerable challenges at the moment. If they are one of your key partners, what challenges does that bring to you as an organisation in terms of the work that you're doing alongside them, and what plans have you made to ensure that that can progress and to make sure that that work continues? We're already seeing some of their work unfortunately having to scale back or stop in some areas. I'd be ashamed to see that happening in some of these. My third question is around, again, we talk a lot in here about multi-agency work. So as well as sitting on this Police Crime Commissioner panel, I also sit on the South Nottinghamshire Community Safety Partnership. And one of the things that we do there is we review domestic abuse related homicides. There was a request put out from that partnership recently to all statutory partners, which includes the police, for them to contribute to the funding of those domestic abuse reviews, because there are 7 partners going into those, which are local authorities, police, fire service, among others. The response that we got back from the police was that they refused to contribute to that, and to ensure that the cost of those reviews was equally shared by the authorities. I mean, let's say there's a strong part of this report which is around that strengthening a partnership approach, and that although obviously we want to have preventative work at the start rather than after the incident, you know, the worst outcomes have already happened, it's also really important to review from a multi-agency perspective what's happened in those incidents and learn from them for future. So I wonder if that could be brought in as part of the VORG approach, since while domestic abuse obviously isn't only committed against women, as you pointed out in your presentation, they are a very significant part of that, with over 3 times the amount of incidents happening to them. I'm getting there. My next question was, you mentioned about some sort of workplace accreditation scheme. Very briefly, just is that what you meant, some sort of accreditation, or can we have a little bit more details about that? And can we also ensure that it's not just a tick box exercise and one that creates a load of paperwork for various workplaces so that they meet that standard, but doesn't actually have any sort of meaningful change in the organisation? Had one recently in my own workplace where they had to go through a whole load of hoops just to get this accreditation to show that they did really well on it, but actually it was just a load of paperwork and it didn't really reflect on the changes in the organisation. I would say that they were doing a really good job in that, but they had to bring in loads of unnecessary things. So can we, if that's what you're looking at, can we try and make sure that balance is right? And then my final question is just a request that there's a lot of, really detailed data that's been put together. Again, see that's one of your pillars for the VORG strategy, and it's a really important one. Is that data all being shared out by, and I have to say as well, I was really pleased to see that for once we've actually split it out into all of the boroughs so that Broxtowe gets its own section rather than being rolled in with other people. Again, I appreciate that. Is that data going to be shared with local authorities and the other key partners to make sure that they can sort of pick up some of the pieces from there where they may be able to support with the strategy? Thank you.
Okay, so just to pick up on the 2 questions on grants and the one on the ICB. So the current grant scheme is right to renew it. As the Deputy PCC said, it's been in place for 4 years. It's time to renew it. So those grants will finish in September, and we will be publishing a new grant scheme over the summer. It isn't finalised yet. That's why it's not out there. So we are looking at that, and one of the things that we will be mindful of, and we'll be doing an impact assessment on it, is that it's a time of change. So we will be mindful that there are organisations who will be worried about funding, and that will be taken into consideration. The money has to be spent on domestic abuse and sexual violence. It can't be used for anything else, because that's the purpose for NJ. So it will still be supporting the same activity, but it is right to renew it. And then the second question that I think I'm picking up, which is around the work with the ICB. It is a challenge at the moment, as you've referenced. They're going through a time of transition. We do have strategic engagement, high-level strategic engagement with the ICB through Commissioner Godden's PCC strategic board, which I think we might pick that up again in answering one of your other questions around DHRs. We have not yet seen, we haven't seen any scaling back or stopping as yet. We have got that commitment. Positive discussions have been continuing, but we do need that high level engagement through the strategic board. And there is a timing issue, I think, that may prove difficult.
In terms of the workplace accreditation, that is something which I want to work with employers. It's hopefully not going to be a tick box exercise. It's got to be meaningful. It's about keeping everyone safe and supporting individuals, both women, girls, men and boys as well. So it's early days. More than happy to come and have a chat with you when I see you on Friday to talk about it further, if that's okay. In terms of the detailed data that can be shared, Nicola, the data, how is the outcomes data shared?
So these are co-commissioned services, and the domestic abuse data actually goes to the local authorities before it comes to us. The sexual violence outcomes data comes to us, but is shared with all our local authorities. But I think you're referring specifically to the districts, aren't you? So in terms of sharing it with the districts, that's certainly something that we can look at. Is it the outcomes data that you're particularly interested in?
It was more actually the board survey and some of the sort of like impressions from residents, because there's some bits where it picks up, obviously, I can't find the exact reference now, but sort of to things of safety on public transport. So I think we get access, my understanding we get access to these sort of statutory data, but where that's being conducted by the PCC, I just want to check that that was also being shared.
Yes, so it's all in the board needs assessment, which can be shared with local authority partners.
And just finally, I think in terms of domestic homicide reviews, I think my understanding of the police position is that they call for an equitable split, not necessarily an equal split across partners. And it's been a debate that's been had at the county under the Safer Nottinghamshire board county level. Through the PCC strategic board, we suggested that annual conversations around funding, whether it's the modern slavery team, whether it's CCTV, whether it's domestic homicide reviews, are all done strategically once, rather than having to go partner to partner, begging bowl to begging bowl on an annual basis. We have a strategic approach to that, and that's what Commissioner Godwin is leading in terms of those conversations. I think that helps. Thank you. Thank you. I've got two of us at the moment. I've got Leslie Darby and then Councillor Shannon. Thank you.
And once again, thank you for the report. My question relates to the perceptions of safety on public transport. And can you tell me what is being done currently to improve this, especially in Nashville and Rushcliffe area? I understand you're doing further analysis, but you already have some analysis there that tells you it's a big problem. And so would you be able to explain what
So one of my, it happened over a year ago where I had conversations with NetTram, which I think is really important. There's a lot of antisocial behaviour, low level, and some quite serious incidents on NetTram. And they were crying out for a relationship with the police to try and work out how we can best deal with this. So the plan is that Operation SafeNet was set up just under 12 months ago now, where we have a police officer and an analyst in their control room. Now, I don't know if you know this, but NetTram have the best coverage of CCTV in the city from all of their stops. So every single tram stop is a safe space. If you press the buzzer, stand underneath the pole there, they can get you on CCTV and you can talk to the control room immediately and they can get you help and support. Operation SafeNet was designed so that we could start analysing what the problems are and where they are. So the model is that they would analyse and work out where the problems are, and then that would nut into the local neighbourhood policing team, who would then come in and deal with the issue or the elements of the issue that were there. So I think that I think it's worked really well. I don't think it's perfect by a long way, but it was a pilot to try and get a picture of what's happening on the tram, when it's happening, where it's happening, who the individuals are that it's happening to. So I think that we are just assessing that now. So we'll have a good assessment of what that looks like. And hopefully we can continue it with NetTram, who are very supportive, who funded it themselves, to try and give that sort of reassurance to people that we're still very much involved in it. What I'm noticing as well is that that relationship with the local neighbourhoods is starting to bear a bit of fruit, in so much as there's a conversation now happening in local areas like Rushcliffe, to sort of gather up intelligence on individuals who are causing these problems on our transport, because obviously it's really critical that people feel safe within the city and the county. So I think that that's happening. Obviously we've just launched Operation Safe Travel, and the idea of Operation Safe Travel, which was funding through the mayoral office, is that it will target more buses than it will trams. So at the moment, we've got 4 security guards, another pilot, 4 security guards from Octavia, who are doing approximately 10 hours a day, 7 days a week. And it will be intelligence-led and data-led on where the problems are, and where the challenges are, and how we can best get them into trying to resolve some of the issues that we've got. So I'm fully aware of it. The mayor's fully aware of it, and we're obviously really trying to look at solutions to be able to bring it into a place where you can get on a tram or a bus and feel that you're safe, or at least you've got somebody to go to be able to deal with the problem is there in front. Drivers are also going to be trained on buses as well to start identifying. So again, it's a pilot. It's only just launched the other day. So we'll have to see how that goes. But I'm hoping that helps support some of the work that's happening out there already.
Thank you. As an aside, was any work done on perceptions of safety in taxis?
There have been some issues with taxis and obviously with the taxi licensing. My understanding is that when that's happened previously, it's caused major problems with the taxis, and that might be because there are taxi drivers who are not doing what they should be doing, or it might be just the fact that they just don't understand it. And I think it's something that we need to look at. I know that Angela's done something with regard to pink taxis and women using pink taxis, but I think there's more to be done with taxis on how we make sure that they're safe and their customers are safe. I agree. So that's something we can look at.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Taylor, then Councillor Shannon.
Thank you, Angela. Can I just say a big thank you for all the work you've done in not just putting this report together, but the actual direct work that you're doing. It's really important. A lot of people forget that 1 in 4 women are the victims or will be the victims of domestic abuse or sexual violence. That works out that 4 women in this room are likely to have been or will be a victim. When you look at it like that, we have a massive issue to address. And the other thing that is really concerning is that women tend to be repeat victims up to 10 or 20 times before they'll tell anybody. And a lot of this report, I support all the work that you're doing, but we need to remember that this is just the very tip of the iceberg, what we're doing on this report. It's what's going on in the homes. And I'm really worried about the next 6 weeks. And I suspect a lot of women are. We know that whenever England play football, there is a massive rise in domestic violence. And I want to get the message across to the public, and particularly to men. It's not acceptable just because you've had a few drinks and we've either won a football match or lost it to abuse women. It's just not on. The other thing that I think is important is that whilst we've got figures on inputs, and virtually all of this is really about inputs, we aren't getting figures yet, and I don't know how we get these, but I think we need to, is how are we actually reducing the offence, the number of violent incidents, domestic abuse and sexual violence. How we get to count that when it's 10 or 20 times before a victim will even admit that to themselves that they're a victim. And I won't say survivor at that stage because they've got a lot more to go through before they become that. But I just think we need to be looking at working out. We said we've got an objective of halving the number of victims over the next few years, but we don't even know the numbers yet. And we need to remember that. It's a massive task. And it's a nice start, but we've got so much more to go. And the biggest thing is to get men to realise they're the problem. Thank you.
Right, first of all, I've been working in domestic violence for over 25 years and I've seen women, it takes them 10, 20 times to leave. It's when they're ready, when they know they have the support there, they've got the backing there, because in that current situation, they're very isolated. They've got no one to turn to, they don't know what's going to happen with their future. It's the finance side, it's the children, it's the school, it's the upheaval of moving as well. So one of the things what we do is raise awareness on domestic violence. We talk to as many people, we go out in communities. The Walk in My Shoes was a fantastic opportunity to talk about walk. There was women who didn't know who to go to, they didn't know how to report it to the police, they didn't know what services were available. And so it's constantly raising awareness, and this is why we said we will be continuing to engage with all community groups and build that trust and confidence and raise awareness on VOG itself. So that's one thing. How do we reduce these incidents? You know, it's not overnight, it takes time. We're starting from over 2 years ago now, is chipping slowly and slowly, because like I said, VOG has been going there for over 100 years. And so we've got to work slowly, but there will be individuals, because it's hard to measure, individuals who have got out of that situation and they've been dragged back into that situation, or their next partner could be a perpetrator as well. So it's difficult how to measure this at the moment and how we do that. But it's Nottinghamshire is not saying we're going to halve it over the next few years. What we're going to do, we're going to try to improve it, change it as much as possible, but we don't have a number for Nottinghamshire ourselves. I'm going to hand you over to Commissioner World Cup.
Yeah, just on a few of the points that you made with the World Cup, obviously, you're very aware that domestic abuse rises, and just some of the figures are, so when England lose, it goes up by 38%. When they win or draw, it goes up by 26%, bizarrely. It's utterly ridiculous, isn't it, that we're in this situation. So whilst the World Cup is on, I was going to obviously brief you on this when I was doing my bit, but I may as well mention it now. There's going to be public safety and crime prevention messaging around domestic violence and drink and drug driving. We're going to be promoting domestic violence prevention videos. Elliot Anderson, a Nottingham Forest footballer, has done a video which we can put out and use him as a bit of an influencer to get men to understand and listen. And we're also going to be supporting the Government's Enough campaign on VOG and the Think campaign on drink and drug driving. So there is some activity going to happen behind the scenes. But in terms of counting, I think it's already been identified how difficult this is to be able to deal with it. It is a pandemic in the country, and the reality is that when the Labour government were putting the policy forward, it was a 10-year plan. And here we are 2 years into it, and all of the things that you just mentioned in terms of how do we count this, what does it really look like, are starting to unravel now, because it appears that it is very, very, very challenging. And I think we're up for the challenge. I wouldn't put a figure on what the numbers will be or what that looks like. But if we're fortunate enough to be around in 10 years' time, I would like to see a significant dent in the amount of domestic violence that's happening, and a change in behaviour, because if we don't deal with the males in this, we're never going to solve this problem. So it's a broad spectrum, it's really difficult, it's complex. Angela's already just outlined to you how complex that can be and all of the challenges that there are in that environment. But we're up to the challenge, we're doing good with the awareness, but like you say, it'd be nice to be able to see hard facts on the table that say it's being reduced by such and such. But I think it will come, but I think it's just going to take a bit of time.
Thank you. Are there any other questions? If not, can we thank Angela? Sorry. Who was first? I didn't catch that, sorry.
I think the other person was first.
Good, thank you.
you'll have to rely on my voice. Again, I'd like to commend you for your efforts, not just on the presentation, but on the work you're carrying out. A couple of things. I would really appreciate to see the breakdown on public transport, where the least feeling of safety is. I know you've mentioned the buses, but in Ashfield, we're at the top of the list. I think it's probably the train and the transit. So I'd like to see a breakdown of that if possible. I know certainly Sutton Parkway is an isolated station, and from getting off the train, you have to walk over a Dartmouth bridge between bushes, down some steps into a dark car park, and I don't feel comfortable doing that at night. So that's one place to look at for me for safety, is the isolated stations like Newstead, Woodhouse and places like that. They aren't so well lit and well attended. They're out of the area. There's no housing around them. There's nowhere to go as a place of safety on them. What's my strength? Just to, I'll have to come back to that. I've just lost my train on that. It's what you wrote up. So if you could see that one, please.
Yeah, it's an interesting one, isn't it? British Transport Police obviously deal with the stations, but what you're talking about there is probably just being able to deal with some of the architecture in terms of plants and lights, and so there's some simple fixes to a lot of this, isn't there?
Yeah.
And that's something we perhaps need to look at, but maybe we need to have a conversation about the area and then have a look at our local policing plan and see what we can put in place. I don't see that to be too major an issue to be able to do that.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Rosenthal. We'll come back to you when you remember what you've got.
I didn't make a note, unfortunately.
And then we've got Councillor Shannon. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just wanted to say congratulations on the report, because I think it is a very good report. Some brilliant work going on, and Gary, your office is doing a good job on this front. But also, I have to say, Angela, that you've always been very supportive in the work that you're doing in Gedling as well, and you've helped to put this issue on the map, and I think that's so important in the world that we're living in today. And we've heard the various reasons why it's so important. Unfortunately, I will have to mention it that with the changes to the governance around the Office of the Crime Commissioner in the future, I understand that some elements of this work may sit with elected mayors and other arrangements. I just wanted to get a feel for what steps are being taken now to ensure there's continuity of this work that's being carried out, so that when that transition comes in, this work isn't lost in ether, because I think it's so important, and I know that things can be quite destabilising sometimes with these big changes. So for me, it's a priority to ensure that this work continues wherever whoever it falls under, I should say.
Yeah, just to say that obviously change is afoot, as everybody is aware. Work is ongoing with the Mayor as we speak. Myself, the Chief Constable, the mayoral team are talking and starting to align and work out exactly how we sort of stage that so that come 2028, when the changeover actually happens, it works in a more smooth, seamless manner. And that's obviously a priority as well, to make sure that our services are still delivering and there's no stoppage for those as well. Michelle will be able to give you a little bit more detail on what's specifically happening. Thank you, Michelle.
And actually, Chair, this will shorten an item later on where I'll give a verbal update, so it'll help. Thank you, Councillor. So yeah, there is a public safety integration programme with EMCA, the Combined County Authority Officers, Derbyshire and PCC and ours. One of the work streams will look at partnerships and commission services, including community safety and serious violence, but also the board agenda will be within that to ensure both the accountability on forces and the commission services and partnership working we're doing around the priority areas are continued beyond transition. And the EMCA officers have already expressed a commitment to make sure that things just don't drop off a cliff, so to speak, that we're all working together to ensure that continuity.
Did you want to come back?
No, that's fine.
Thank you.
Have I remember that?
Go on then.
Right, sorry. Yeah, it was to do with, no, I don't want, it's to do with the reducing the amount of abuse and violence by men. and I'm new to the committee, I'm sure it will have been discussed, but surely the long-term project starts at schools and it's educating the children. Because one thing I know from my experience, as you will yourself, it runs in families. Kids see the normal way to conduct a relationship so differently. When it's violent, sexual abuse, it tends to carry on through families. So we should really be looking at the educational side of it. And personally, I feel that we should be also looking at getting some one-to-one counselling for kids. I don't know if it exists at the moment, but surely kids should have somewhere to go to at school if they feel they want to talk about violence in the family, where they can ask questions and be reassured.
We do have the Healthy Relationships programme. That's what they do. They go into the schools and do that piece of work as well. And you do have police officers who are linked into schools as well. And then there are counsellors as well linked in the schools as well. I think we just join them all up.
Well, thank you. I'll say I'm new to the committee, so.
No, that's fine. Thank you.
Thank you. Last but certainly not least, Councillor Shannon, thank you for your patience.
Thank you, Chair. First of all, thank you to Angela for the presentation. I think it's very obvious there's a huge amount of work being done there. We've just scratched the surface. It's very impressive. I wanted to start asking about a few bits of data, if that's all right. So in the report on page 29, you talk about 19,000 log offences in the most recent period, but estimate that only 1/3 are captured in the data. So the first question was, the log strategy has been in place for a while now. Do you have a sense of to what extent you're beginning to uncover the hidden harms and maybe improve that rate of reporting? And if you have an understanding of the extent to which you're beginning to reach into harder to reach communities since the last update, for example, with respect to honour-based violence, but also in the, I was going to pull one out of the walking in my shoes section. We give a fantastic list of all the different communities. I spotted one on there was Gypsy Roma Traveller communities, and I know that is usually an extremely difficult community to reach into. And I was just going to ask if you could give an idea of how many respondents were able to get there and how you went about the engagement, because I think if you've been successful, a lot of different bodies could learn from that. And then the last one was just regarding the data on survivor outcomes following NSVSS support. It was just to ask, sadly, but I imagine it is the case that some survivors didn't take up this opportunity. And I was wondering if you have data regarding how their condition changed over time, simply because it's a comparison of what happens about intervention. You might imagine that for a small number of people, the feeling of safety increases anyway, because it's been longer since they've been a victim. And that way you have a way to compare and show the intervention has had this much effect, rather than just to say this is what it is afterwards. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. In terms of the data for services, I'll hand that over to Nicola to talk about. In terms of obviously the hidden harm, one of the key things is about building that trust and confidence, going out there, engaging with as many communities as possible. And that's an ongoing issue. It doesn't just happen overnight. This is like 20 years of working within the communities with myself and the Commissioner, that we've got those contacts, we've got the building of trust and confidence, and then it's working with new emerging communities and building those trust and confidence. In terms of the Gypsy and Roma Traveller, we worked with Nottingham's Aid because they're the ones who have some really good links. Again, they built that over the years with that community to get that trust and confidence as well. And they support women from that community who are victims of bullying as well. We've met as well. So, and then the data over to Nicola.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Deputy Commissioner. So just to add on disproportionality and take-up into services. So our victims needs assessment recently looked at where we had disproportionality across protected characteristics across all our services. And what we're able to do is use that now to identify where services maybe aren't reaching all those that they could be, and we've got a baseline so we can use and assess how that progresses. And then just on not assess, I think you mentioned not SBS services outcomes, and asking about, well, if survivors didn't take up the opportunity. You're right, that is quite difficult. If they haven't engaged with the service, then it's hard to know what would have happened without the service. What I would say is that typically survivors are presenting in crisis, and they're not known to other services, so they're coming to that specialist service first because they trust it, they know it's independent, and they know they'll get the support that they need. And in terms of measuring the outcomes, we are using a very robust clinical outcomes scale. So although we're not able to compare it with those who haven't been in the service, we are able to say that we think those outcomes are genuine and meaningful, and they stand up against any clinical outcomes in the service.
Can I just quickly add as well, the Commissioner and I are both engaged in the national work around developing police performance framework, and I suppose it touches on Councillor Taylor's point earlier. That if you have a homestep priority of halving the number of all incidents, then clearly that under-reporting that we are aware of is not going to be encouraged, and you're going to have the converse outcomes of wanting to reduce the number of incidents rather than have reporting of more incidents from those that are not having confidence to report. So that's what the Deputy Commissioner is talking about in terms of we don't set those local targets because we understand that perverse consequence potentially of seeking to reduce or halve when we're trying to encourage under-reporting.
Thank you. I think that takes us to where we say thank you very much.
Sorry, just to add on in terms of the statistics. So I think you'll notice on the Performance and Insight report, which is included on page 123 and 124 of the pack, we do have a whole range of key performance metrics related to what we'll call gender. And I think what we're seeing there in terms of our understanding of unmet need and underlying prevalence, which is always difficult to gauge, but we do pick up through our police and crime survey the proportion of residents that report having of the crimes that they've experienced that were domestic abuse related, and that's remained stable throughout the year, as has the number of domestic homicides, which is the ultimate, I suppose the peak of in terms of harm, which we record sort of near nigh on 100% of. And that's also remained stable over the last year, and that compares to I think a 5% increase in reports into the police. So that would indicate that while the underlying levels of domestic abuse and war have remained stable, we are identifying more and seeing increases in levels of confidence through the disparity between those measures.
Thank you, Dan, for giving some clarity there. Thank you. But first and foremost, I want to thank you for an absolutely superb piece of work that you're doing. And I think you should be very proud of it, given the amount of interactions. I think we could have probably kept going for at least another hour. You probably wouldn't want that, but thank you very much for keeping us updated. And I think as you go down this road, you gather more and more things that you think you should have had and they start again. It's one of those things that will forever keep you going, I think. But I think on behalf of everyone here, it's been a very informative session. Thank you for giving us your time. People are content. Can we move then to the Police and Commissioners Update Report, item 8 on your agenda, pages 61 to 102. Oh, last time we were here, they didn't work, and I got that mentally in my brain.
No problem at all. Thank you for that, and thank you, Angela, for that input. As you can see, the broad agenda, as much as it's a formatted agenda, it ebbs and flows, and there's changes all the time, and I think you're seeing not only from government, but from a local need and what the services that we deliver have to be so flexible. and be able to move in quick time to be able to accommodate the needs of our community. So it is really a challenging field of work, but I'm pretty sure that by the time we come to the end of our term, we will have some satisfactory out of it, because it is an extremely serious challenge. But just moving on, I just want to mention, before we kind of move on really, Barnaby Webber, Grace O'Malley Kumar, Ian Coates, and the 3 survivors of the Nottingham attacks. The reason I want to mention that, because on Saturday was the 3rd year anniversary of the attacks that took place in Nottingham. Unfortunately, it sort of coincides really with the conclusion of the Nottingham inquiry as well, which has all culminated at roughly the same sort of time. So just to say that our thoughts are with the families at this difficult time. Once again, it's been a very, very difficult year for them. And I think it's important to make note of that and challenges that brings. Obviously, a report will be coming out because it's been concluded in terms of the inquiry, and suffice to say that some of the information in the inquiry is extremely challenging to hear, but hopefully the report will reflect some of the information, and we can act accordingly on it. But I can't say any more than that until that report comes out. But really, just to make note that it is the 3rd year anniversary of an absolutely tragic incident in Nottingham. Moving on, just in terms of the political landscape at the moment, there are some quite considerable challenges, as you are probably all aware, being politicians. There's obviously the police response to the Henry Novak incident in Southampton. There's public order issues response in Belfast after a knife attack. And there's also unduly lenient sentence referral of teenagers convicted of rape in Hampshire, which has also hit the news. And finally, one that does affect Nottingham, there's the sentencing of asylum seeker Sherrod Malik following the rape in Sutton in Ashfield. Still an outstanding offender for that, which the police are working towards trying to resolve. But again, it's setting a backdrop of I suppose challenges with who the individuals are. There's challenges from the right-hand side of our politics around some of the issues that our communities are facing. And it makes it very, very difficult for the police. It makes it very difficult for our communities. So it's really just a way to raise awareness that policing is aware of that. It puts the microscope on policing. But I think that I think we're up to the challenge. Policing isn't perfect by a long way, and mistakes have clearly been made, but they need to go through a judicial process. And I would say to all politicians, my sort of note to them is really restraint in perhaps what you say and what you might feel. I know your communities are feeling it. We're all feeling it. However, we're in positions of power and responsibility where our words affect our communities. So I think that it's just important that I make a public note to politicians, particularly of Nottinghamshire, to restrain from perhaps making opinions known at this time and let the judicial processes please take their place interference. So that considered, obviously that is the backdrop. One of the challenges that we've got at the moment in terms of force is the demand level. So the demand level has gone up by 25%. So that means that there's a huge increase in calls into Nottinghamshire Police for various different needs and wants of our communities. But work is ongoing. It's called Operation Focus, and that means that a daily senior leader briefing to improve the response of our grade 2s and 3s. And really work on sort of bottoming those to release some of the pressures with our grade 1s. We've got superintendents chairing weekly strategic meetings to develop longer term solutions to try and resolve this issue. The thing is with the spike is, it's not like I can say to you, the reason it spiked is because of this. It has just spiked. And they're trying to work out exactly what that really looks like. I think in the onset of time, with AI and technology, we'll be able to balance this a lot easier and work out exactly where our spikes are and why they're happening and why the community's need is rising. But until that time, we're sort of left into, let's try and assess and work the problem back and work out how we can actually manage that. There's also new use of exploring a wider use of rapid video response. Again, this was huge in the domestic violence arena, and this is to try and respond to other crimes, because with the remote investigation of domestic abuse, it saw improvements in response times and high levels of confidence and satisfaction by the use of this equipment. So we're seeing if that can transverse over now to other elements of crime to see if we can get a similar sort of response. So hopefully that will return some interesting data. We've also got op recovery, which is a 2-month flip to tackle unmet high volume grade 4 and online demand is again high, which has been increasing year on year. Involves 3 daily briefings using officers and restricted duties. Again, it's a blitz, so it's not going to be permanent, but it's really to try and recognise and deal with the grade 4 level of crime that we, in terms of graded incidents that we get. Grade 1 is a 999 call, by the way, so you can sort of work out where we've got the gradings going down. We're going to continue to monitor neighbourhood policing abstractions, which I know is always a bone of contention and a topic of conversation at these meetings. So at the moment, abstractions are low, but are still occurring, so we are aware of that. Obviously, it becomes high risk when we've got things like football matches. Fortunately for us, our football matches are on TV in America, Mexico or Canada. However, it doesn't mean to say that the need for police is going to be any less. Neighbourhood officers are occasionally committed to nighttime economy activity. However, this is generally within their local policing area. So one of the things that we've been finding with abstractions is officers have been putting down that they're being abstracted, although they're still in their local area, because they're not on their beat specifically. You get extracted if you go away from your local area. So that means if you worked in Rushcliffe and that was your normal beat and you got assigned to the city because there's disorder in the city, you would technically be abstracted. So it's been refining some of that information and working out exactly what that really means and what that reflects on our communities. So that being said, a bit of, I suppose, of a highlight over the last period of time. We have a new Chief Constable. You've met the Chief Constable, some of you have met the Chief Constable, and you'll be meeting him, I think, next month, where he'll be sitting down and talking to you about his vision for Nottinghamshire and where Nottinghamshire is going to go from now. So we've done with our Operation Catalyst and what that looks like and where it's taken us to, and it's achieved what it was set out to do. And now you're going to hear from the Chief about where he's actually looking to take the force and how we can get that consistency in our performance so we don't go back into engaged status. So that'll be an interesting input for you next month. Just to say as well that we've obviously, we're working in partnership with the City Council and other partners to do Operation Reclaim, which is in the city. So Operation Reclaim is built on a clear hold build, which is a very militaristic term, where they clear the city. So they will basically arrest and deal with any matters of antisocial behaviour, drug dealing, violence. They will do that consistently throughout the next few months. The hold phase is where the partners start to come in and the police will hold the city so that new and emerging businesses can't start their little interactions in the city, particularly if it's into the drug dealing and antisocial behaviour, and keep that clear whilst our partners and our voluntary sector come into the city to rebuild the city. One of the factors of this is about making sure, keep on touching on it, making sure that Nottinghamshire is a safe city. The Mayor wants a safe city because she's obviously trying to drive investment for the future. So it's really important that we step up to this, but we are working in partnership, can't do this alone. The City Council are very involved in this and are playing a huge part in it. So a big thank you to them for engaging in it, stepping that space. We've all got a responsibility for the City of Nottingham, and it's really important to make sure that that happens. I've already mentioned it, Operation Safe Travel is another partnership operation with £200,000 from the mayoral office to fund the security officers on a shift pattern. Whilst we did the launch in the city centre, It did look like it was very much tram orientated. It's actually more bus orientated than it is tram orientated. But it nuts into the tram and obviously crosses over because people travel. So I think that it's early days, it's a pilot, and we'll have to see what that actually delivers. At Christmas time, I don't know if you remember, but we had the Octavian security guards, I think from courtesy of the City Council, in the city centre, and they went down really, really well. So I think that they have quite a good skill set in terms of dealing with individuals and being able to calm things down before they get too heated. And there are already incidents where they've removed people off the tram. It hasn't escalated into arrests. However, they do have that behind them. They have radios which will ring into either the control room, and officers are available to support them when and if needed and required. But we'll have to see how that goes. As I say, it's a pilot, so it's early days, but I'm looking forward to some of the results of that to see how we can improve it even more. I've also launched public safety socials. So I go out now and I do round tables with our communities, have a conversation with them about their local policing, because it's important to me to hear locally how neighbourhood policing is embedding itself in the local area. And I must say that I've been to Bassetlaw, Gedling, St Anne's, Kirkby and Ashfield. My next one is City West, and then it'll be Newark and Sherwood. The ones that I've been to so far have been really positive. And I think what I'm starting to see is that neighbourhood policing, whilst it's not perfect, it is not perfect by a long way, but they have got a relationship with their local police, which I think is the first step and is really key in starting to resolve some of the issues that we have on a local basis. And building that relationship with their local inspectors and their local beat people, so they can have those conversations and those phone calls. At first, I didn't know how it would be received, but it's been received extremely well in every area that I've been to. So I'm going to continue those. They work well. We get some really good ideas. We get some really good feedback. But not only that, it's the amount of people that are attending. So that in most of these events, I'm returning about 30 or 40 people, which is more than most beat surgeries. And so I think the police actually value it, because they actually get to speak to a large amount of people and actually start taking any information that those people have. So I think it's really working quite well at the moment. But as I say, there are more days to go. And more, I suppose, challenges to face. But at the moment, I'm pleased with it, and we'll continue. Just a thing of note, Worksop Police Station, there was an announcement about Worksop Police Station. So an agreement in principle is being agreed with the District Council, working again in partnership, to manoeuvre from where Bassetlaw are now at the moment. They're in Queen's Building to 73 Bridge Street, so they'll be on the main drag in Worksop. So providing the next meeting, which is on the 16th, goes ahead. We should be looking to build a police station in the centre of Worksop there for the communities. It won't have custody cells, that is not affordable. However, one of the demands I've always had when I've gone up there, can we have our own police station? Can we have it centralised? Can we have our own police station? So I've managed, it looks like I've probably managed to get most of the way with that, but tomorrow I'll be able to confirm for definite. But it all looks very good, let's put it that way. And also just to say that I held my second PCC strategic board on the 10th of June. This brings all of the senior leaders across the sector to really look at systematic change and how we can do it. I call it my let's have the adults in the room and have adult conversations around some of the challenges that we're facing and how we can help and support each other. It's been extremely well received, and obviously we're at early days at the moment, but I'm really hoping that we can resolve problems a lot quicker, get the right people around the table and get the conversation actually moving forward. So, and just last to mention, I just want to thank Councillor Taylor for the work that he did in Newark with regard to the Knife Angel. For those of you that haven't seen it, it is extremely imposing. It does make you ask a lot of questions. But I think what I found, I went to the closing launch of it, but what I found to be really impressive and really engaging was that the community engaged in it. and you had young kids to adults, really gathering around the statue, and it just opened a conversation around knives and what they do to our community. So, Paul, can I just thank you very much for that, because I think you put a lot of work into it. I know that the VRP advised from behind the scenes and stuff like that, but just to say that it was impactful, it was powerful, and I think it really made a difference in you, and really saw the community come together. So thank you for your input in that. It's well appreciated. So I'll end it there, because I know that we've got time constraints and things, and open up the floor up to the chair.
Thank you, Commissioner. We've got quite a lot of people who want to question you, but I'm just going to ask Councillor Wheeler, who I know has to leave, if there's anything he wishes to raise.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Commissioner, for your detailed report. I mean, it's just, I suppose it's the same when I raised my last stuff on here. I know Councillor English made it since. Obviously, in Rushcliffe, we're starting to see increase in crime. Obviously, you mentioned before about the women in terms of not feeling safe on public transport, we're seeing big rise, burglary, etc. And a lot is visibility of police, as you know, when I raised that. So we've got these lack of resource in certain areas in Rushcliffe, especially with extraction. So there's also an assurance from you that is going to be actually looked at and looked to that in place, because police always have a very good reputation in Rushcliffe. We've got an excellent inspector, an excellent neighbourhood team, but unfortunately some of that work's been undermined because of the response time and the lack of visibility, because understandably the team is stretched. Thank you.
Just in response to that, my awareness of Rushcliffe is that there are some challenges, I think, with the staffing at the moment. It will be resolved, but it just takes a bit of time to come through. So I'm hoping that the next meeting we have, you can say, well, actually, there has been it might be a small improvement.
I'd love to say that.
Absolutely, yeah. So hopefully hold me to that, and I'll speak to the chief about Rushcliffe and see where we are with that. Make sure that you'll get an opportunity to speak to him next month. So yeah, absolutely. Okay.
Councillor Taylor, did you want to come back in?
Yes, I'll come in. Thank you. You've mentioned CCTV in your report, and that you funded some. We've just spent £750,000 on a new CCTV control room. And I just want to share with the committee how useful that is now, and how it has changed things from a reactive system where you look to see what happened when a crime occurred, to actually seeing crime occurring and getting the police there very quickly. So it's really proactive and making a major difference. And I'd still like some financial support, please, because there's more we can do. But you've mentioned how much you're doing in Nottingham, and I accept it's needed, but it's also needed in Newark as well. Many of the things you're reporting that you're now addressing. And just because Nottingham's got the city title, I think you need to remember that there's places like Newark where we get people riding around on e-bikes and scooters, wearing balaclavas, drug dealing, and we're told, sorry, there's nothing we can do because there isn't tactics agreed to tackle them. And that is not acceptable to the people of Newark, and I don't think it's in many other towns. If people are going to use those electric bikes and scooters, I'm sorry, we're going to have to get tough on them and actually do some action. Even if they fall off, they fall off. At the moment, we've had people almost killed using them. So we can't say, oh, it's because of safety, because they're not safe anyway. So I'd really like you to get the chief to put some real action, certainly in Newark and Sherwood, over bikes, scooters, and people wearing balaclavas, so that they can go out drug dealing. And I've seen it literally, the distance I am from you, people trading drugs. And when you mention it to the police, they say, well, we can't do anything because there's no tactics. But as I say, if you can remember that there is more to Nottinghamshire than Nottingham, please. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm fully aware that there is, and whilst I hear and understand what you're saying, what we probably need to do is an operation. We have a team that can deal with this, and they need to be, they need to talk to the local inspector and have a conversation around how and when all of this is happening, to be able to formulate a plan, to be able to work it out, to work out how we're going to tackle it. I don't think, I agree with you, I don't think it's acceptable that nothing can be done. I don't agree with that. And it's something I'll press on the chief, and I'm sure you will as well. But I'm fully aware that Nottinghamshire is a big place, and there's lots of other places that need help and support and resources as well. Bear in mind, Operation Safe Travel is not just about the city, it's about buses in the county, it's everywhere. Okay.
Thank you. I've got a long list. Was this?
It's just on this relevant point, if that's okay. I'm sure you're aware that in the Metropolitan Police they had a tactic where a senior officer recommended that they knock the lads off the bikes, and that held for quite a while they're doing that. Shortly after that, there was a situation down in the Met where a van was actually following two lads on a bike. They had an accident which was fatal, and the police officers were hauled all over the coals. They were suspended from duty. It made the major press. There's a danger to knocking people off of bikes. At the end of the day, they're going down a main road in an unworldly way, but there's the possibility of fatality. And the question is, if the police officer does that inherent to the instruction that's been given, permission, does that permission carry on? And it doesn't, not at the courts. So there is a danger in positive actions. That's I'd just like to point that out.
Yeah, just to come back to you, obviously that's very an operational view of what actually happens. We have a team that specialises in it. They can stop, and we can make sure that we get them out to Newark and surrounding areas if they've got issues. I think it's just important to note that what you described there is exactly the problem. A life lost is not worth, regardless of how you think of it. In good old days, you say, "Well, come on." But you can't do that now, and we wouldn't do that now, and we have to do it appropriately and proportionately. And I think that's what policing will reflect. And if you speak to the chief about it, I'm sure he'll say a similar thing. But we have a team that specialises in it, and I would defer to them to be able to work out exactly how to do it. We just need the intelligence to work out what sort of plan to put in place. So thanks for that.
I'm mindful of time, the fact that those of us at this end of the table will probably evaporate before too long. So if you could be fairly slick, I've got a list of people, starting with Councillor Barn, and then Councillor Hudding, and then several more. Thank you.
Thank you. And just to echo everyone else's, thank you for the report. It's very detailed, and also for your recognition in the introduction there around capacity problems and extraction and the concerns that we have with that as a panel. I think that figure of the 25% increase in demand is quite startling, although I also do think there's a positive thing, because one of the things we've talked about before at this panel is the problem where numbers of reporting seem to be going down, but dissatisfaction was going up. So something I've been doing a lot as a councillor, and I know that we've been pushing locally, is to encourage people to report. And there is the challenge, because Nottinghamshire policing, was struggling for a long time, that people just stopped reporting. And now we are trying to push people to report again. But that then needs to be backed up by action needs to be taken. So possibly pushes us back towards where we were. So I have some questions around the figures that are given in the report in section 4.2, and also then how that relates to 4.26. So in 4.2, you talk about that you've achieved the required uplift in officer numbers. And I just want to know, again, what does that mean on the ground? Does that mean we've got the right numbers in training, but they're not actually out there on the beat and on the street, as it were? I know in Broxton we still have considerable vacancies and pressures. And what is the timeline for actually getting those filled and making sure that we've got the full complement there, so that, I am a councillor, but and as local government, we can tell people that they are going to get the support they need. And yes, you report it, and yes, you will get a response, because that is what needs to happen, because otherwise people will just drop off again. And yeah, and then the other part of that again is abstraction. Like you said, abstractions are low, but what does that mean as as a figure, as a percentage of actual positions? Like is there a minimum, for example, that can be abstracted from an area so that, you're not taking all of the officers from one area of the force? I think you talk somewhere in here about non-deployable, so I don't know if that term relates to that. But there's a significant concern that we've had periods where there don't seem to be any officers available at all within the entire borough. And I understand that police figures now are a lot lower than they used to be, and that's something that has been obviously substantial work to improve, but it is a problem going forward. And the other thing is just to touch on what you said there about, talked about some good work being done on reclaim and some good work being done around line bikes and e-bikes, which are a huge concern in my area. We have had fatalities, as you know. There is an impression that a lot of work is happening in city centre, or is happening first in the city centre and takes a long time to get out into the boroughs and out. We have had some progress on that, I'd say, and I was really pleased to see that, but it took sort of 8 months after people saw similar things already happening in the city centre, and there's just a feeling that the problems that are happening out in the county aren't being recognised and are being sort of deprioritised against other things. And as part of that, I'll say the good thing is people have seen some of the stuff that you put up on social media. The downside again is that a lot of the stuff they've seen seems to be focused on the city. Even when it's talking about tram, it was pictures from within the city, and they're like, well, what about the problems that we have out here? And it's good to hear you acknowledge that these are related, but that needs to get through to the people on the ground and to sort of filter through to their understanding as well.
So I'll start with the end there. I'll take a note of that, and sometimes I know it seems like it's city-centric, but my thoughts are always it's for everybody, and everywhere that the tram touches. And with the buses, I had to look at something that I felt was going to fit for the county. So it is a challenge, but it is noted. Your thoughts are noted on that. In terms of numbers, I'll give you the numbers that we've got. So we're budgeted in Nottinghamshire 2,400 cops. We have 2,364 full-time equivalents at the moment. So that's the number we have. In neighbourhood policing, we have 321.7 full-time equivalents, which means that you in Broxtowe will have 1 inspector, 3 sergeants, 18 PCs and 9 PCSOs. So, but bear in mind that's split up over, I think it's 3 shifts that they split it over. So break that down accordingly. Then you have days off, you have people who are ill, and all of a sudden your numbers don't suddenly look like what it looks like on paper. So there's some of the challenges that we face. The bigger picture is that we have probably, I think it's probably the second highest amount of officers assigned to neighbourhood policing. That is supposed to increase over the next 2 years because obviously our Labour commitment is 13,000 extra officers, and that should grow because they want them to be in neighbourhood policing. So the answer to that one is watch this space. However, there is quite a considerable amount of resource going into neighbourhood policing. So some of that you'll see the benefits of, and some of it will be frustrating because when you actually get it down, you might just have shifts of six officers. And if 2 of them are off on leave, or 1's off ill, 2 are off ill, suddenly you really are cutting into your resource. So whilst I think that it's good, I don't think it's perfect. I think it's better than it was. I am looking forward to the government funding us for more neighbourhood police officers, so I can bolster the teams even more, and the chief can. But at the moment, that's what we have, and that's what we have to work with. So it's challenging, but I know that it's better than it was. So I don't have a direct answer to you because I don't have the resources to be able to say, guess what, we can put another 25 officers in your area. We can't do that at the moment. So, but sometimes it's about working more effectively and more efficiently and looking at those areas. Obviously, as I keep on saying, next month you'll be able to talk to the chief around some of our resources and where you think they're placed or not placed, or where perhaps you think that it should be placed. We're obviously open for those conversations to take place. So, with that, I hope that's answered your facts and figures. I can't mend it in the sense of giving you a load of officers. What I can say to you is there is a hefty resource put into Broxtowe, and if you have issues such as scooters and things, then I would implore you to speak to your neighbourhood inspectors. There is a team from the city who can come out and they can do the operations you need, but it's just about making sure that conversation happens. But I can help you with that as well. That's not a problem. Okay.
Thank you. Did you want to come back?
Can I say it was specifically figures on the extraction rates that I asked?
Oh, right, sorry, yeah. So in terms of extraction, I don't think we have the specific figures to
At last, so yeah, the last time that they were sort of reported to the APCC, they were in the region of less than 1% abstraction rate in terms of officer time, but we don't have the most sort of up-to-date picture. But we can obtain. There's also, you know, a process for not just tracking the abstractions, but assessing their validity ultimately. So there's an element of what is a reasonable versus unreasonable abstraction. So there's a nuance to that we could probably sort of unpick at the HQ meeting next month, if that's helpful.
If something could be prepared, thank you.
Councillor Wood, you saying?
Thank you. I too was a bit alarmed at reading paragraph 4.26 about operation recovery. It is really, because it talks about non-deployable officers within local policing, which automatically makes you think it's neighbourhood policing that are being extracted. So I suppose my question, following on from Councillor Bunn, is it's good to know that that's not a permanent situation. Are you having regular oversight that we won't get mission creep as far as this is concerned? Because I see if you say it's going to happen for 2 months, that's May and June. And we normally see during the school summer holidays, we see an increase in antisocial behaviour, particularly in parks. I mean, in Burton Park in my ward, we had some swans and geese that were killed by children throwing rocks at them. And a lot of public concern about that over the school summer holiday period. So it would be good to have a understanding that you're having oversight of the fact that, first of all, neighbourhood policing isn't being depleted too much, but second of all, that it is a 2-month operation, that it is clearing the backlog as promised, and that we will make sure that over the school summer holidays, we do have a full complement of neighbourhood policing. The other thing to say, or appreciate you don't have operational hands-on powers, but it's your job to take that up with the Chief Constable. I'll certainly be raising that with him. On that same situation, just police in Baseford have been doing beat surgeries. And they've kind of like been arranging them in venues at quite novel times and places. And they haven't been that well attended. And I really would ask you to encourage them to go along to existing community events or, you know, community cafes, places where people already are, and then advertising that they'll be along at that event. But it's just a better way of getting in touch with people, and something we do ourselves, and rather than set up, you know, there are very few people come to council surgery, but you knock on a few doors nearby and loads of people will tell you issues that they have with things. So I would just ask that, I think it's great in, you know, a great idea, but it's just in reality, it doesn't seem to me that there's huge attendance at these sort of police beat surgeries that are taking place. And just to speed things up, I was going to ask a question under the performance about hate crime, because we've seen this wave of hate crime, and I think it's disgusting that politicians are using the platform to wind up members of the public to go and attack, you know, random members of the public based on the colour of their skin, because one incident has happened, albeit a terrible, terrible, terrible incident. But you shouldn't generalise based on that either. So I know that there's real community concerns out there, following on from some of these inflammatory things and irresponsible things that have been said by politicians. And I just wondered what's happening to actually address any community tensions that might arise out of those comments.
Thanks, Linda. I think first thing is to identify that it's a really, really difficult playing field at the moment out there. Like you just described, we've got senior people within our communities stirring up hate, and we've got people within the community acting upon it. We have, the white flaggers they keep coming to the city. A lot of them are from Long Eaton. And bizarrely enough, the last time that they came, they ended up almost just having a conversation with the left wingers of the city, who obviously show up to retort them. And there wasn't any shouting or yawping, and it was held at the Robin Hood statue. It's really strange. The whole scenario is really odd. They seem to be waning in terms of their support. I'm not understanding why they keep on targeting Nottingham. That would be something that we would need to dig into with the police and try and work out why they're coming to Nottingham. It might be because some of our MPs are encouraging that. I don't know. But I'm not understanding the whys and the wherefores of that at this point in time. So it's a difficult one. In terms of our communities, we're well connected in our communities. And obviously we're trying to monitor and work out exactly where our communities are in terms of hate and where they feel vulnerable. It's obviously an ongoing issue, but the other side of it as well is trying to respond to it in a balanced way so that our communities don't feel that they're being singled out in any way, shape or form. So it's a challenge on both sides. However, it's going to be a feature of the summer without a shadow of a doubt. But having spoken to the Chief Constable, they are fully abreast of it and aware to respond where and when necessary. Community cafes is something that I question in terms of the beach surgery. I think it perhaps needs modernising a little bit, and I think working with perhaps local councillors and joining forces might be a better way forward. Again, it's a conversation that I'm having with the Chief as we speak around how we could potentially upgrade and update their sessions. If I can get 30 to 40 people to come to my events, then they surely should be able to get, 20 odd people at their events. But they're going to have to start, I think, working in partnership, to be honest with you, to draw that in and make it worthwhile for people to attend. So I think that's a good idea from yourselves, but it's kind of being thought about. How we can improve this, I think, yes. Mission Creep, hopefully not. I can't promise that. I don't know what the demand is going to be. And you'll be able to have a chat with the Chief about that moving forward. I hope that we can get to understand what the 25% is about and work out how we manage that better so it isn't 25% next time around. Again, it's a conversation to sort of have with the Chief. And finally, just to identify what non-deployable means. So they're police officers, they're warranted police officers, but they might be injured, sick, or ill in some way, shape or form, so they can't go onto the front line. But they can sit in an office, they can pick up a phone, they can, there's bits and bobs they can do. So that's what non-deployable. Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Oops. Thank you. We've got Leslie Darby, Sue Harding, and then Councillor, and that will be all on this one. Oh, you don't. Okay, thank you. Let's go to Sue Harding. Thank you.
My questions for the next section.
Oh, right. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Chair. So I wanted to start by asking about Operation Reclaim. Obviously, I'm a councillor for the city centre as well, so I take special interest. I wanted to start off just by asking if you feel it's time limited and how long you think you'll spend on it in the clear, the hold and the build stages. And then moving on a bit, obviously very topical, the World Cup is underway as we referenced. There's going to be, I imagine, an uptick in incidents of some extent to that. Are you making additional resource available for that? And how do you think that'll impact on neighbourhood policing? I won't reiterate the points that colleagues have made about neighbourhood policing, but I think the points have been made relatively clearly. And then on a related note, it's an anecdote, but I think it tells something. I recently had cause to visit a place of worship to do some reassurance with all the attention they're receiving at the minute. And they told us that they didn't know who the local neighbourhood officers were. Now, we had an inspector with us who was very good and very sharp on that, but I wanted to ask if you have any mechanisms in place to review and make sure that those sort of organisations, community groups, places of worship, routinely get those details up to date. Thanks.
Lovely. So in terms of time limit for city centre, at this point in time, there is no time limit on it. We haven't said it's going to end at a specific date. I think it's really going to be about where the partners are at, what resources the partners can commit to support some of the work that's already been done, and how that falls out. We're not prepared to let the city go. So we're sort of saying, whatever it takes, we're going to do it with the partnerships, which is including yourselves, and really try and make a difference, because we don't want to have to revisit it again. And at least then we can do sort of spots on it, in a sense of, in a year's time, we can come back to the city and do another sort of wave if we have to. But hopefully the hold, the build and the hold will put things in place that actually deter some of the problems that we've got in the city, as it were. World Cup, yes, it's going to be a pressure on resources. I can't tell you how or where that's going to be. The problem with the World Cup is it's really late at night, some of these games. So I know that licensing has been changed to accommodate some of that. But in terms of resources, there may well be an impact. There may well be. It probably depends how far England go in it. So your guess is as good as mine. But I think that somewhere along the line there will be an impact on neighbourhoods at some point. I'm only being realistic about it. But again, you'll meet the chief next month. We can talk about the World Cup and what there is a plan in place. Don't get me wrong, there is a plan in place. But to what extent that means pulling resources from other places, he'll be able to explore that with you a little bit more, so you've got a better idea. But I'm sure that the plan will also involve a lot of our partners. If there's an issue in the city, what we're going to do. So hopefully that's in place. In terms of, what was it, reviews, wasn't it? What reviews?
It was on making sure that community groups, places of worship, have their local content.
Yes. So part of me doing my public socials is about getting out there and talking to elements of the community to find out. I've been told great things about neighbourhoods, but without getting out there and talking to the community, I don't really know whether that's happening. So the answer to your question is, yes, I'm looking at it, I'm reviewing it, because I want to make sure that all our communities have access to the police in some way, shape or form. And if they're not, then we will make sure that they get in there. There are some really good engaged local area inspectors who are really into their communities, and there are some not so good ones. It would be really disappointing for me to think that we've got police officers on our patch who aren't engaging with elements of our community. So if you've got somewhere where that's happened, it'd be nice to know so that we can just double check that those relationships are being built and they're being consistent. So I appreciate that, man. Okay.
Just before finally moving on, I couldn't resist just to say that I look forward to seeing the two dogs, what they do. Colleagues, I'm aware that we're all. Oh, sorry.
My concern is that you're doing this Operation Reclaim in the City, the clear, hold and rebuild. My concern is the clear pushes people out to the boroughs and district. So they might keep away from Nottingham. But do we have anything about where they're going?
The answer to that is probably yes and no. Some of the nuances of the city. So we have a prison here in Nottingham, and when we have a lot of prisoners from outside of the city who often end up homeless in our city, that creates a need and demand for dealing, and that brings a lot of individuals from the outskirts of our city into the city centre, often with weapons. One of the issues we've got is obviously dealing with the rough sleepers and how we sort them out and rehouse them, and give them the support that they need. The other is when we go in and clear, you're right, it pushes people back out, but the majority of offenders, so the majority of offences are caused by about 70% of people whom are well known to the police. Surprise, surprise. There's already early indications that crime has been cutting the city considerably. We're just waiting to sort of shore those figures up. So I think it's a valid question. I totally understand what you're saying. We do have people from outside the city, they do come in without showing it out. We were having issues from Hucknall, young lads coming from using the time to come in and cause antisocial behaviour. So us pushing them out pushes them into Hucknall. but it's about communication between the city, the clearholdability, and our local areas, saying actually these individuals are causing a problem in the city, but they'll have visits at their house, and obviously there'll be support put in to be able to try and round them up and stop them from doing it. Because obviously one of the other sides to it as well is about, okay, what do we do with our young people and what's available for them to engage with that means that they don't get on a tram and go into the city because they don't need to. So I think there's a huge amount of work that needs to be done. It is factored in, and we are aware. So I obviously run the VRP Violence Reduction Partnership, and we monitor all individuals who are involved in crime in the city. So we know them, the families, where they live, and all of the details that we need to know. So it's not just we're just going to push everybody out and leave everybody to pick up the pieces of that. It's very much more calculated than that, and there is thought behind it, so I can reassure you on that basis.
Thank you. I'm mindful that everyone is suffering. You've had opportunity to look at item 9. If you've any urgent questions you need to ask, could we just go to those very quickly? And then we can listen to any update the Commissioner's got in terms of the report, and the work programme can just be nodded through. I'm mindful that people can't cope with much more heat. It's really just about finishing this off, I think.
I'm just looking at the violent knife crime that's increased by 17%. That is quite concerning well, it's very concerning for us as a community. What are you doing about it? Also, I was in London recently and noticed that they have in various areas of London something called a knife box, where you can actually deposit a knife in the box. It's very secure. It's only opened by the councils, I think, or maybe the police, I'm not sure. But if I was a kid with a knife, I wouldn't be taking it to a police station. I may put it in a box that's near where I live, where there's nobody watching what I'm doing. I am concerned. We get a lot of people in court with knife crime. It's one of, apart from shoplifting, knife crime is the number 2 crime in court that we have to deal with. I'd just like your opinion on what's happening.
Sorry. Yes, Seema. In terms of knife crime, obviously it is going up. That can be one of a lot of things. It can be better reporting. We know that with knife crime, in terms of violent knife crime, and actually somebody striking somebody with a knife, we know that that's going down because we monitor the A&E. So we obviously work out exactly. So we might be having a lot of knife crime in the sense of people using a knife to threaten somebody with. However, that's not backed up by they're actually using it and injuring somebody.
But it's still threatening.
No, I'm not undermining it. Yeah. I'm just trying to break it down for you a little bit. In terms of being a knife crime amnesty, which has been run by our knife crime team just recently, and I suppose with knife crime, the challenge is how do we get it through to young people and their behaviour around carrying a knife for protection, because this is what is proven to be happening. And for me, we probably need to do, I think we need to do a lot more campaigning to make sure that there's an awareness, and we need to start thinking about ways we can mitigate it. There are certain challenges that are happening with knife crime that are related to deprivation and poverty and so on. And obviously, part of Operation Reclaim, I know it's back in the city, I know that, is about being able to try and deal with some of that and try and negate some of that sort of challenge. It is a concern that it's going up. However, there are other figures that counterbalance it a little bit, but yeah, sorry.
Yeah, I would just add that the force are currently exploring the use of or procuring steel bins that will be available in communities like other forces do. So that's something that's been actively explored but wasn't available for the most recent Mod Centre initiative.
That's good news. Thank you.
Thank you, Ron. People are content. Can we just swiftly have an update from the Commissioner? Oh, sorry, Councillor.
I just wanted to ask my question. It's quite an overarching one, and it's one that I think will get probably answered. We are on to like the, just double check, we are on the performance update now, right? On item 9, yeah. So just obviously you've got KPIs that you've laid out there. According to the report, only 2 of those KPIs are currently being met, and the other ones not only aren't being met, but they are actually showing a reduction in where we were previously, which is obviously unfortunate. And I just wondered if you could make sure you talk a little bit about that in your update. There's other things obviously in the report. There's lots about cars and e-bikes, but they've been talked about already, and we'll also talk about them separately soon, I'm sure.
No, just to say that I'm aware of that.
Just to
Chair, it's taking the next item if you're ready for it, yes.
I don't think we've got any other questions. I think that was the last one. Did you? No?
And Chair, I can be very swift because I think I answered Councillor Robinson Kane, sorry, in relation to earlier, the programme with EMCA, the East Midlands County Combined Authority. We've got 2 OPCCs working on that, but also those that support the fire authority, the current fire and rescue authority on both Derbyshire and Nottinghamshire. So all 4 entities are going to be transferring into the combined authority, and it's what that looks like and what we can do to streamline that, but also what we can do to ensure that those continuation of services are forefront of our mind as we go through the next 2 years. So there is a formal report, written report coming to your next panel meeting where we will go into more details about how that programme is developed.
Before we all melt away, can I thank everyone for your forbearance in this hot room this afternoon. Thank you very much, and we do declare the meeting closed. Thank you.
Thank you.